God of War Ragnarok is here. I was so excited for this game. I walked into the shop and when I walked out I shouted,
And keep the change, you bastard!
welcome to the Mumbling Gamer. On today's Mumble we'll be mumbling about God of War Ragnarok. And as you can see, I'm dressed for it. Not everyone can have their nips out in Ragnarok. Whew. Before we continue, please give this video a like and subscribe. And after this video, I think I'm going to move to Misselheim. Let's start with the original worries we had in the previous video about God of War Ragnarok. My main three worries for God of War Ragnarok was the short development time, being held back by PlayStation 4, and also the story. I do think that both the short development time and held back by the PS4 are definitely right to worry about. You can see in some elements it has been held back by the PlayStation 4, this being due to the massive amount of hidden loading screens. If you don't know, I mean moments like these. These by no count ruin the experience. It does kind of take you out of the experience slightly, but the fact that this game still has no cutaways to loading screens or anything else is amazing. It just feels like the game might have had less of these moments if it was made exclusive on PS4. But every time I see Kratos do the limbo on a boat, it is kind of funny. Story wise, I can't talk about it that much as I'm only 10 hours in and I don't want to ruin anything for you. Also for me, this game needs to be experienced at your own pace, playing through the side quests, and also I'm playing on the difficulty of Give Me God of War, so it's definitely slowed me down slightly. Also comment below if you're playing on Give Me God of War or what difficulty you actually play through this game on, and also show some respect for your fellow Give Me God of Wars out there. A game story like this, there's always something to worry about, especially with the end of the last game teasing a lot of different things. After The Last of Us Part 2, it made me think anything could be possible. Okay, without spoiling anything, this game had massive highs and lows within the first 30 minutes. I was in tears for one moment, then on the edge of my seat for another. There is a scene that felt like I was in a mob boss sit down. The atmosphere in that room could be cut with a hammer or even an axe. It's also apparent here we're going to get a lot more gods, as we do see 3 in the first hour. That's all we really get from the story at the moment. It feels like there is much more to it, with us already visiting new areas, stepping away from Midgard pretty quickly where most of the first game was set, and it also hints at going back to other areas as side quests from the previous game. It does feel like the game as a whole does have a slight different tone to it compared to the other one. There has been some mention of God of War Ragnarok being a lot more MCU-y story-wise, and you can either take this as a positive or a negative depending on your stance on the MCU. But after playing it, I do understand what they mean. Jesus and his potato. In near all God of War games, it has either been straight up chaos or
Rage, fucking rage!
and then in the new God of Wars we got a lot more, not depressing, what word am I looking for here? Maybe grounded in realism and a bit more darker tone to it. Our wife has died at the beginning of the game. The whole time we're dealing with her loss and growing a relationship with our son. This setting up a different tone compared to the past games. Ragnarok goes in a different direction again, this being the addition of a lot more comedy, kind of taking a Marvel approach to storytelling, a mix of serious elements and comedy. There's even an interview with Eric, the director of God of War Ragnarok, saying, yeah, because I was bringing a lot of really heavy stuff into it and they were like, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to cut it somehow. I wanted it to be like Empire Strikes Back. Remember, Empire is kind of a downer by the end, but I don't want it to be that much of a downer because it's going to be the end. I wanted the middle of the game to be a kind of downer and then swing back around again. So they were like, okay, cool, can we start to open it up then? And I was like, yeah, and we started playing around with it. And then we leaned into the whole Kratos is literally the most powerful straight man in comedy you've ever seen, to the point where he does things that are so him that you just have to laugh at him. For some reason, when it's mentioned like this, it doesn't sound that good. I don't know about you, but it feels weird knowing that people are going to be laughing at Kratos for who he is.
Snack? I do not need a snack.
And then you realise who's going to be taking the piss out of him and making jokes at him. These are obviously these two
I live and breathe. Is that Atreus?
and our favourite severed head, Mimi.
It is old. No longer of use.
But enough about you. I'm talking about the wet sword.
It also means that these characters have a lot more screen time this time around, which I'm definitely not complaining about. Mimi, Sindri and Brock feel like the game's comic reliefs. It kind of mirrors the Marvel approach with Korg, Drex and Rocket Raccoon, but it also will most likely end up, one out of them 3 will have a depressing ending as well. Looking at you, Mimi.
Oh, this is a fine mess.
making it possible if you don't like the MCU, you might not like the game. Now let's lastly have a look at the combat. Gameplay wise, it's very similar to God of War 2018, but the big difference being the massive focus on the Chaos Blades rather than the Leviathan Axe. The Leviathan Axe, try saying that 3 times fast, the Leviathan. Anyway, it is obviously still there, it has all the nicks and knacks it has from the first game, but the Chaos Blades, you only got them at the end of the game, so it's obviously that the focus is going to be much more on these blades this time around, and it surprisingly changes the combat. It also changes up the puzzles massively. Talking of puzzles, can I have a minute to try and figure it out before Atreus tells us how to do it? The amount of times Atreus just pops up and annoyingly tells me to do something, it's really given me some Carl vibes from Walking Dead. Anyone else? Also, weirdly looking at Carl, oh wait, Atreus, it felt like the model is slightly lacking. When you look at other characters like Kratos or Sindri, it feels like Atreus is a bit basic. Atreus is a good character as well, it just feels like the model lets the character down slightly when you look at other ones with how much detail they have in comparison. Another massive change for the game is the combat, including the massive amount of enemies. This was a massive criticism of the first game. The enemy types didn't really affect me that much in the previous game. What affected me most was the amount of bosses that were the same. I could fight Droga until the end of Ragnarok, but these big bastards I never want to see again. The amount of levels within the combat is also a nice change, these being another variation of uses for the Chaos Blades from the start of the game. Also, the addition of elements were slightly concerning at the beginning, but the first time you did this to the 15th time you did it, it still felt as satisfying as just using the axe. The game definitely kept that feel to it that made God of War great and somehow improved it in ways I didn't need to, but it still did. That's a true merit to a great game. There are some slight glitches in the gameplay, but nothing game breaking. There was one weird glitch where the light was at the bottom of the screen at the starting area. Apart from that, after 10 hours of playing, I couldn't find much else, but it's likely these will be fixed by the time you play if you haven't already. So throughout my gameplay, there are definitely some weird highlights, one of them being this.
If he's done it before, why wouldn't he do it again?
Images from long ago do not tell the whole story.
It's not the best scene in the world, but weirdly made my mind jump to this, and that just made me laugh. There is another scene where Kratos and Atreus is on a train. What would be pretty normal, but it's a dwarf train, so it made me think of this. Then finally my favourite moment when Kratos calls Mimir brother.
Your deeds, but do not be troubled by them, brother.
Oh? And why not?
There has been some moments where Kratos shows his humanity side, but always been to his son, but the relationship of kind of brotherhood between Kratos and Mimir is amazing and really does make sense as they've been through so much together. In summary, after playing the game, I know I'll be doing this for weeks. What will make my missus do this? Does that mean we're right not to worry about God of War Ragnarok? I would think yes. God of War Ragnarok is a great sequel, having all the greatness from that base game and stepping it up a level. That hype was unmeasurable, and they've lived up to it in most part. It really is a great experience. There is some really enjoyable new elements to the game, and it's even simple stuff by just having the Chaos Blades at the beginning and Mimir. It just changes the experience and adds them best parts from the first game, but from the start in the second. There's obviously a lot more different things in this game, what also makes it better, what I will not mention because of spoilers, but you will be definitely surprised if you had no spoilers, especially how enjoyable it is. If you understand what I mean, actually don't comment, because that will be spoilers. But to summarise, this is the actual Game of the Year. No matter what happens in that Game Awards, that rigged Game Awards, this will be the Game of the Year of the people. And that's it for this mumble. Ooh, it's been a cold one, but what do you think about God of War Ragnarok? Comment below your thoughts. No spoilers or else. Make sure to like and subscribe for the next one. Ooh, and I will see you on the next mumble. Hopefully in a warmer mumble. Ooh.